So we're here for the conference on rebuilding livelihoods in conflict-affected communities in Ethiopia. We're doing this conference to bring different stakeholders to deliberate on effective ways of rebuilding communities and households in conflict-affected communities. We're doing this because Ethiopia experienced different types of shocks in the last few years, including a major conflict in many parts of the country.
Research contributes to this process of understanding conflicts and shocks more broadly, as well as identifying options that would help recovery and transformation. This includes just measuring impacts and then identifying causal linkages between different processes, further assessing capacity to implement, identifying instruments and their abilities and potentials, and also once different programs and recovery options are introduced, tracking progress and learning through monitoring and evaluation.
We have limited resources, especially with increasing crisis in different parts of the world. Domestically and internationally, there is a huge pressure and limit in terms of resources. So what that means is we need to prioritize on the interventions that we can invest on to support livelihoods and households. The type of research we're presenting here is showing us the bridges of the damage that communities have suffered, while also the alternative and different mechanisms and approach through which we can support livelihoods and households affected by different types of shocks.
We ended up listening to communities' stories of trauma. And that actually really, to me, said, sometimes we rush to bring in all these things. Maybe we should take some time to listen to those people first. We go there, we listen, and we don't start pushing them to start producing crops the day that they think that the conflict has subsided. And I think that is one thing that we really need to think about. How do we best prepare for these shocks? And that preparation for shocks is a big contribution that IFPRI, partnering with government, can really do at local level, at regional level, and at a federal level. Whether it's policies, whether it's actually physical things that you put on the ground, it's fundamental that we really get that preparedness going on.
We have invited different stakeholders, including people from the government, representatives from the government, representatives from humanitarian organizations such as WFP, and we also have development partners such as the World Bank, FCDO, the European Union. So these are major actors and contributors to development and also to rebuilding and recovery in Ethiopia and also other countries. So the evidence we're presenting here is going to be useful for them in different ways. For example, if you think of the government, it can be useful to prioritize the type of investments that they can cost effectively invest and support households. And that applies to other development partners. And this also applies to humanitarian organizations which are facing significant pressure in terms of an increase in demand for humanitarian services, while there is a decrease in resource for humanitarian service. So that also requires optimization and prioritization of the most effective approach to support households. And we hope that can benefit and help humanitarian organizations.
How can we build the local capacities so that the local people at local level, they have the capacities to have the clean quality seed? So we are really thinking about working with partners at the local level, at national level, because this is where we go wrong sometimes, trying to really say we can go all the way to the farmers. We can't, we don't have the resources, we don't have the time. We can't have access in conflict situations. So some of the focus that we have is to say, how can we strengthen the local seed multipliers, the nurse, so that they have this clean seed in their stock and they can be able to really make it available to farmers at local level.
Supporting development-oriented interventions is another area in addition to food aid support. Indeed, food aid support is not such something which we can live it, but because we have to live the lives, protect the lives of majority. Mm-hmm. So food aid is there, but it's not long lasting. So we have to think about development aid to build the capacities of local business communities.
Ethiopia is a very important country to the Fragility, Conflict, and Migration Initiative. We're working with partners including the World Food Program, World Vision, UNHCR, and numerous NGO and government partners to hope to continue in the years ahead the generation of evidence that can solve the challenges we've heard about today. We've explored with our partners today a wide range of topics related to rebuilding livelihoods in conflict-affected communities in Ethiopia. We've heard about the multidimensional or compound nature of shocks, where we have climate change really acting as a risk multiplier amid other shocks and stressors that bring unique challenges about. Each session has brought forward critical issues as well as innovative solutions that can help shape a more sustainable and resilient future for Ethiopian communities.
Yeah, I think the conference, I would say it was very successful, particularly when I see the passion from the audience to ask questions, the passion from the panelists and the opening speech that people had. There is a definite need for more public discourse of this type, that people want to speak about this, discuss about this, deliberate about this. So that is one of the main objectives. It's mainly to trigger more intellectual discourse along this or about this. So in that sense, I was very happy that the different stakeholders have been very touched by the content and also the type of discussion that had been covered. So I do think that it's quite successful in that sense. It's also successful in terms of, if you see the breadth of the stakeholders. So we want the humanitarian organizations, we had them, and then the government is a major actor here. We had the government represented by several high-level officials. So that was quite a success, and I'm happy that we had to organize this and to successfully launch this.
Let's manage risks, because then we will not need to manage crisis, right? Now I can step in Namkolo's shoes and acknowledge the Ministry of Agriculture for partnering with us, the Policy Studies Institute, the Agriculture Transformation Institute, the Department of Risk Management or Commission, the development partners, IFPRI, World Food Program, EU, FCDO, World Bank, and others represented here, our CGIAR colleagues, local institutions, the speakers, the panelists, and of course, the organizers of the very successful conference. Thank you very much.